The biggest reward I ever got in my life was the Eagle Scout Award. And the reason it was so important and valuable to me is not because I earned it, because of a scout leader named John Winterode. John Winterode was my scoutmaster. As I said earlier, my father passed away when I was 12 years old, and we were living overseas at the time, and my mother came back to the States because we were in the military, and remarried a guy who really never had kids before and didn't really seem to be interested in kids. But I stayed in Scouts because my father started me in Scouts when we were living here in Atlanta. And I went through Scouts, and I don't know if you're familiar with it, but you got to earn a certain amount of merit badges, and if you've done all these projects and earned the merit badges, and you reach 21 merit badges, you'll get the Eagle Scout Award. Well, when I was 2 merit badges away, I quit. I left Scouts because I was more interested in girls and got involved with things I shouldn't have. And I remember right before I quit, and it was probably one of the reasons I did quit, I asked my father, we had a father-son cookout at the Scout troop. And my stepfather said, I don't want to go to a father-son cookout with you. It's not fun going to a father-son cookout by yourself. So I left. And then I would get these phone calls from my scoutmaster named John Winterode. And John was sort of like the only shining light in my life at that time. John was an air conditioner repairman. But he was a remarkable person. And he called me up and said, Greg, if you quit now, you'll regret it the rest of your life. And I went back and finished the last 2 merit badges. And I remember the night they pinned Eagle Scout on my chest, and my mother and I were there. It was the proudest night of my life. Not because I earned it, but because some guy named John Winterode would not let me quit. I graduated from high school and went into college, went in the military, got a master's degree. I've earned many rewards and medals and lots of reward and recognition in my life. 30 years went past since I got Eagle Scout. And I was writing my first book. And the publisher says, Greg says, you got to meet this deadline. Hey, and by the way, there's one thing you got to do for this book. You got to come up with a dedication page for the front of the book. Every author's got to have a dedication page. And then John Winterode popped in my mind. 30 years since I've thought about John. But the interesting thing is, the older I got, and maybe I got a little wiser, that the more important that Eagle Scout Award became to me. Because I realized what an influence this one man had on my life. I didn't have a father growing up. I had this guy. And it was late at night, and I said, I've never told him how much I appreciated what he did for my life. That I would have never achieved the things that I achieved if it was not for him. I was kind of nervous. Like I said, I'm an emotional person. And that night, I took the Atlanta phone book, which is like this thick, and I turned to the W's and ran my figure down, not knowing I'd find that name. And lo and behold, in the Atlanta phone book, I am not making this up, there is one Winterode in the Atlanta phone book. And I picked up the phone, and I dialed the number, and my hands were shaking. I didn't know if John was dead or alive. And the phone rings, and Mrs. Winterode picks up the phone. And I said, this is Greg Smith. I don't know if you remember me, but I was in your husband's scout troop, Troop 550, at Immaculate Heart of Mary Catholic Church. He said, Greg, yeah, I remember you. John is going to be so happy to hear from you. Let me get him. And then in a minute, this shaky old voice says, Greg, what's this about you joining the Army? I thought you were going in the Air Force like your dad did. He remembered that about me. 30 years. He remembered me. And I said, John, I just want you to know that I'm finishing this book. And I've done a lot of things in my life. But what you did for me made all the difference in the world. You transformed me. And then he said, Greg, we got to get together. It's been so long since I've seen you. But I was the busy executive. The busy author had to get the book done, and I waited 2 weeks. And I called back, and Mrs. Winterode said, John left us a week ago. But he was so proud that you took the time to call. Ladies and gentlemen, think of that person in your life that transformed you. Where would you be if they never existed? Just think of that other person in your life that needs your transforming touch, that you can make a difference with at work, at home, or that child that you haven't talked to in a long time. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have a great conference. I hope you have some new ideas to make a difference wherever you go. Thank you very much.